not predictions as such, but expectations for trends for 2024.
It's kind of hard to work from home as a barista at Starbucks.
Send out remote food or whatever and have half an hour after a project is closed to really say salute, have a good time.
I'm going to say you didn't mean food, did you? You did mean alcohol, right? Then come on,
I meant food.
You meant alcohol. Let's be honest.
I don't drink alcohol.
To have a nice building. We've worked really hard. We've got this nice building. If that now nice building that is costing them millions of pounds every year is empty, then it's like, well, okay, so do we sell it?
As long as there is availability of jobs, that's not going to happen.
Continuing with our technology trend predictions for 2024, we explore the potential trend of reducing hybrid working and seeing businesses bringing staff back into the office. The impact of the global pandemic has undeniably reshaped how businesses operate, and the widespread adoption of remote work during the past few years has prompted a fundamental shift in the way that teams collaborate. While many have adopted the flexibility of remote working, questions linger about the sustainability and efficiency of these hybrid models. And as you'll see in this conversation, there's a big difference of opinion on the intricate balance between remote and in-person working, and the impact of bringing staff back into the office will have on the business. Okay, thank you and welcome to this episode. Myself, Christian, and Christian are looking at challenges for 2024, are sort of not predictions as such, but expectations for trends for 2024 and what we think that the IT business and businesses in general are going to see through the year. And we've already covered Christian and Christian's. So for me, I'm going to start a conversation about workforces coming back into the office. Now, and I think obviously COVID had a massive impact on the way that all businesses run and on the location that each of those employees uses for that. And people working from home for a very large period of 2021, 22, etc. But then there's been this hybrid working sort of methodology from that point forward. But can that continue? And I'm going to argue that no, I don't think it can. I think. But before we get into that, Christian Lehrer, what are your experiences with regard to hybrid working or working from home?
Great. They are great.
That's okay. That. Good. Okay, over to Christian Moan. That's
next one.
No, sorry.
I'll give it a little bit more perspective. I think we will have to stay in that hybrid work thing because many people and many businesses saw that it is working in general. But, and there's a huge but, we have to get more concentrated ways to come together as teams or as companies to make up for the social gaps, so to say, that are happening when everybody is working from home. So what I mean with that, for example, is have your team to come together once every 2 months or so to really work creatively together. Although creative work can be done on a remote base, I think it still flows easier if you are in a room or if you are in an environment which is helping you to be more concentrated. Because when you are at home, you hear there's the dishwasher that could be cleaned or the washing machine is beeping or doing a strange melody when it's finished or whatever. So there's always that little thing that is maybe nagging in your back. And when you're in an environment which is made to help you be creative and to have group work together, that I think can really boost the things. And with that, having great experience there, but then going back into your own thing and work on consecutive tasks, on things where you want to and have to work concentrated, that's really good. And that is how I would see what is needed.
Is it possible, that's a really good point, is it possible to actually work with a teammate separately? So could me and you work together on the same project when we're both at home. Or if we were sitting side by side at two desks, working on, I don't know, a policy or a structure or a process or a program or a presentation or whatever it turns out to be, how much more efficient would it be if we were sitting next to each other than it is if we're in two different countries in this case?
I think it can be done. There are some rules to be followed. For example, have the camera turned on. That I think is one of the most important things when you work together. And you have to be able to understand and use the same tools. And really, be proficient with that, with the tools. And communicate. Don't rely on email, because email is error prone and there's a lot of interpretation to be done. You can also talk, as we do now, via remote systems and work together that way. And you can have a call that is running for 6 hours. Doesn't really matter. And you can work together as if you would be sitting next to each other. But then you can save all the travel time and be more productive in the other times. Maybe.
I like to say I don't know that people do the 6 hour call though. I think that's the thing. I think people have meetings and then they drop it. I think they discuss maybe what they want to do, but they don't actually work together. What do you think, Christian Moan?
That might be.
Yeah, I've been a consultant for too long, so I'm gonna end up with saying it depends.
No.
The thing for me is I've been doing remote and home working for the last 15 years.
Yeah. So, same here.
Right?
Yeah.
So I split my time between my home office and my actual work office. But the people I work most with in Proact internally are not in Bergen, Norway. They're in Oslo, Norway. So it might as well have been in Germany or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not in the same office anyway, right? So even working cross-country with someone from an office is remote work, right? So why treat it differently? Whether I'm in my home office, which I'm lucky enough to have an actual office where I can close the door and I'm not using my kitchen table as my home office. I have proper monitors and keyboards and the setup. I have web cameras. I have microphones there as well. As long as you kind of create an actual work environment and don't treat your home as work, it works in a way, right? So I work with people in Oslo and in other teams remotely all the time, and it's not a problem at all. But it depends on what work you're doing. Not all work is conducive for remote work. Most of my customers that I work with are remote to me anyway, so it's remote anyway. But some things are better in an office. So the hybrid work thing, that genie is kind of out of the bottle for everyone that has a job description that actually makes that work. It's kind of hard to work from home as a barista at Starbucks. Doesn't make much sense.
You can't do that via VR. I mean, surely there's got to be a way of doing it. Just have a robot behind the machine. That's you with your VR headset and your gloves.
Yeah, I don't know how you combine that with being a home barista with zero trust security.
Yeah, no, probably true. Your robot will end up attacking people.
Over caffeinated attacking people from home. Yeah. But yeah, it as with everything else, it depends on the work you have, what kind of work you're doing, and if your own kind of personality suits being able to work from home.
I agree.
Not everyone is able to get up in the morning, get into the home office or whatever it is, and sit there and do their work if they're at home. There are distractions, as Christian mentioned, right? There's other things happening. I don't have small kids anymore, so I don't have. I have grandchildren. Oh my God, but that's a different story. I don't have all those distractions at home, so working from home is fine. Many work environments these days are open office plans, right? You have a free seating, clean desk, open office. How is that conducive to doing constructive work that you need to kind of be focused on, right? It's easier for me to focus at home if I have an actual home office than in an open office plan at the office, if that's the alternative.
Exactly.
Right?
You think there's distractions at home. Just look at the amount of distractions in the office.
Exactly. So the thing is, as I said, the genie is out of the bottle with the hybrid work thing. So if employers want to bring people back, well, they have to facilitate that. And having open office plans is not a way to facilitate getting people back into the office.
It's interesting, isn't it? There's multiple things there, actually, that I want to bring up. I think productivity is a key thing. And I agree that, well, first of all, I agree completely the fact that your role depends on how much you are suited to working from home and to a certain extent your personality. But also, I think productivity-wise, yeah, I agree. I get far more done at home than I would in the office, if that makes sense. But I'm like you in the fact that I have spent so long working from home that in reality it kind of blurs now because I haven't really worked in an office for a very long period of time. But don't you find that from the point of view of working at home, it makes it very difficult to sort of separate your work and your home life a little bit? I mean, there is this sort of concept of the fact that if you are working in the office, you then finish work and you jump in your car and you drive home, and it's almost like the drive is you taking your work off. So then you sort of like you arrive back at home, and then it's now the evening and it's your time and it's your free time. If your office is in your house, when do you take your work off? Walking down the stairs? I mean, there's very little separation between those two elements. And I think certainly from the point of view of, I found that quite challenging from the point of view that I'm thinking about work all the time because I never really left it. It's upstairs. I walk past it on my way to the bedroom almost, if that makes sense. So I find it quite difficult to separate those two. And I think that's not necessarily good for the employee. How do you feel about that?
True. Absolutely true. But isn't the office in here?
Yeah, no, I throw that in the toilet every evening. That's yeah.
Okay, good. No, I'm absolutely with you there. That the commute time that can be in the morning, it can help you prepare for the things that are going on, will be going on in the workday, and it can help getting off work. Absolutely. But you can do a walk. If you're at home, you can go for a walk for 15 minutes. Do something for your health and also have the same effect of decoupling from work. If you have a separate space, and I think that's, Christian, what you said is very, very important. You have to have a distinctive space for work where either you can close the door when there's weekend and you don't see your monitor setup and your cameras and everything that will always get you back connected to work, or at least get some kind of curtain and get it somehow separated. And don't do it in the kitchen and don't do it in your living room, because then you will be always reminded about it. I think that is very, very important. And that is also what makes us or makes it outstanding for us. We have the possibility to do so. Not everyone has the possibility to have a separate working room. And for them, it might be actually suited better to go into an office, even if it's an open office space, to have that mental separation of work and life. Because, yeah, it's called work-life balance, but maybe it should be more life-work balance in the long run. So let's focus a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that for in my particular case, and if I look at my own mental health in all of this, it's better spent sleeping 30 minutes more each morning than spending 30 minutes in a car. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that as well.
For me personally, that's a big thing, right? So I would rather work from home than have to drive for 30 minutes every morning and get up at 6 or whatever to get to the office. I would much rather start at home with a cup of coffee from my own coffee maker and then head into the office if I need to, because if there's some social interaction thing that we need, or I just haven't been there for a while and need to talk to people, I mean, don't isolate yourself completely into the home office.
Yep.
That's key as well.
Don't lock
right?
the door of their home office. Is that what you're saying? Don't.
Right. Yeah. So get into the actual office, meet the other people, make an effort into planning. Plan a time where you and your team members or whatever are specifically, we're going to be in the office on Wednesday. Let's all meet up there and have some coffee and chit chat a bit and work on things that we might need to do in a common space, right?
Yep.
So like everything else in life, I guess it takes a bit of effort on your own as well, right? Make it into something that works for you and your team.
Yep. I agree.
But I don't think that employers mandating people back into open office plans and not work from home anymore is going to work, because that, as I said, that's we're kind of I've said it a couple of times. The genie is out of the bottle. You can't put it back in again.
The survey I was looking at says that 68% of full-time employees prefer hybrid working, which you can understand. But 90% of companies plan to implement a return to work policy in 2024.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between those two elements. So I think this is, we've got to look at this from the employer's perspective as well. I mean, the example here is VMware have just been taken over by Broadcom.
Sad story.
Yes, I agree with that. This first thing the CEO of Broadcom said was, right, everybody back in the office. But
basically, what he said was that if you had to be able to walk on water if you were going to be working from home in Broadcom.
Wow,
that's pretty much what he said in an all-hands meeting internally.
Okay, good. Okay, so okay, fine. So if your name's Jesus, you're okay, but apart from that, you're going to struggle. Yeah,
but the problem with that is that. Okay, I'm getting kind of into specifics here on the Broadcom VMware thing, because I probably know too much about that, to be honest. But VMware has a bunch of employees hired as remote workers.
Oh, right.
Right. So
yeah, because they live nowhere near a VMware office, one assumes. Good coders who live nowhere near a VMware office.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and all they do is work remotely with other people anyway, internally in VMware, be it on the East Coast, West Coast, whatever, in the US. And Hoktan said that if you live within 50 miles of a VMware office, you're mandated back to work. People who were actually hired as remote workers working from home and has done that for 10 years. So what happens then?
Yeah.
What is the end result of that? The employer might want to do that. The problem is the employees is going to say, okay, I'm going to find someone else who's going to pay me for working from home.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
And they lose that talent instead. Is that better?
No, I think
I'm not sure it is.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Okay, businesses have a challenge, though, from the point of view that businesses have offices. They spend a massive amount of money on offices. They spend a massive amount of money on building, cooking, cleaning, looking after, providing IT infrastructure for, providing resources to run, etc. But you can't have them empty. You know, you've got to, at the end of the day, you can't be spending all this money on offices and then not have anybody in them. It's just a waste of everybody's money and resources and energy and the environment and all this sort of stuff. So there's got to be a balance between those two things.
Yeah, and then you get people like me saying that, okay, you need to have the separate office spaces because open spaces doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
how do you reconcile those two things, right? For one, people need to be able to work on their own and not have open office spaces, while you mandate they won't be working at home, and then you kind of end up with more empty spaces, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a difficult thing.
And then you get shared office space. So why don't we just bin our building then and let's just go and have a shared office space? Well, the shared office space isn't secure. You can't leave your stuff lying around. Someone else is going to take it. You know, it's that sort of stuff. It's like, do I want to be having this meeting when other people who don't work for my company are sitting within earshot? And it's like that. Even that doesn't really work very well.
No, and would that be conductive of, okay, I don't want to drive for 30 minutes to get into the office, so I'm going to stay at home. But now we have a shared space. So if I'm also going to drive into the office for 30 minutes, I got to spend 15, 20 minutes cleaning up my stuff and bringing it back and forth each time as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a even bigger hurdle to actually use it.
Yep.
So it's a difficult thing. I don't think there is a one size fits all kind of solution for this. There simply isn't.
But you can see why the business is.
Everyone.
You can see why the business is sort of getting to the stage now where they're like, well, hold on a minute. What are we going to do? Also, I think to a certain extent, buildings from a business perspective are actually part of the I don't know, the iconology, I suppose, of that business. The business, it's a pride thing to have a nice building. We've worked really hard. We've got this nice building. If that now nice building that is costing them millions of pounds every year is empty, then it's like, well, okay, so do we sell it? Because then we don't have this icon of what we've managed to achieve. There's optics involved in this, not just money.
It'll be cheaper to actually just buy kind of the Vision Pros to everyone and work from home.
Okay, yeah, that's it. Let's just all go out and buy an Apple headset.
Finally found the use case.
There you go.
Getting rid of this corporate offices.
We've solved this problem.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely the way forward. But no, and I think it's fascinating. But you can understand this. So I think we're at this sort of trade-off point whereby businesses want employees to be more close. And actually, I think we've not really talked about the mental health side of things very much. But I think human beings are social animals. We work better in groups. That's just the way life is, and we can function by ourselves. And certain jobs will work very, very well. Thank you very much with us just working in isolation. But still, human beings, if they're working as part of a team in particular, are better off being part of that team. I think that's fairly well documented. I don't think that requires any additional scientific research. But also, it's a balancing act between those 2 points. Is it like you say, do you want to spend all that time in the car or not? And I'm kind of with you, I think, from the point of view that I think employees want to prioritize their state of mind and their work-life balance rather than actually their productivity almost, and they're prepared to go elsewhere if they don't get it. And that's a real challenge for most businesses.
It is, but I think there also is a very large portion of leadership involved. It really, really depends if you trust your people and if you have a company culture that is pulling people and taking them with you, or if it's just, hey, do your stuff and report back when you're done. And I think that is also a part of the problem. Many organizations, especially large organizations, tend to think that they are losing oversight when people are not in the building, because then it's not easy to see if they are working for 8 hours. But it doesn't make any sense to just take a look at the stomping card to see when somebody started and stopped working. I think there's a lot of management style that has to be changed and adopted to that new hybrid work, which is relying on trust, relying on results, and also making space for creativity in that remote or combined situation. And that is really, really hard to achieve. That might be easy for smaller companies, but if you have a large company with many hierarchy levels, it's really, really hard to accomplish that, to have the amount of self-pressure and also confidence and joy that is needed for an organization to go forward as a whole. And it might be easier in the first place to have that in a large building, because then you can hang in your posters and your billboards, bringing in your new slogan, now we are better at blah, 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 and everybody sees it when they're coming in. That stuff is all way harder if people are scattered around the world.
I completely agree.
In the long run, I think it's better for the companies if they find ways to pull people and not push.
It's a really good point. I think to a certain extent, this is something that maybe this is very much a management challenge, isn't it? In the fact that this is very dependent upon the. I'm not going to say ability because it's not fair, but the subtlety of the management to be able to manage people in a completely different environment, because they're probably used to being able to see how everything's doing. And then them being put into a situation whereby they can't see anything about what that person is doing, then it's like, well, how are you measuring productivity? Or should you be measuring productivity even? And actually that's probably something that from a management perspective is a lot harder when people are working from home. But also, I kind of feel sorry for people who start with businesses in this environment. You start for a new business that you haven't worked for before. So you don't know what your job is. You're sort of, I don't know, you're told briefly by somebody about what you're supposed to be doing on a daily basis, but you don't work with a peer, so you don't get to see what they do every day. You have no reference for how much work you're supposed to get through. You have no reference for what goes wrong in certain situations. You have, it's not like you can just turn to the guy next to you and go, "Oh, do I do this with this?" It must make it very hard starting a job in that situation. But I agree. I think management must have changed dramatically in that period of time, because really it's different vision.
So, especially on that point, we had a lot of new hires during Corona, the high season, and we got basically only good feedback. Because we made a lot of thought into how we get people onboarded into the team, into the company in that remote situation. And it's achievable. You can create onboarding plans. You can have people like an onboarding buddy who could be the person sitting next to you virtually and tell you, okay, now you do that, do this, and this is the way how we do it. So that is achievable, but it is a lot of effort. You have to understand how you yourself are working, what your processes are, where your pitfalls are. And then for sure, it's easier if they come in for a day or two to meet some people in space. But in the end, they will have to work remote, or many of them are still working remote. So why not start with the remote tools during onboarding directly so they see how it works?
That you also have to kind of create these alternative communication channels, which are not email, which are not official communication channels. Create some unofficial ones where people can do the water cooler talk without feeling like they are bothering someone. I mean, calling someone on Teams or creating a meeting in Teams is a very official thing, right? It feels kind of, okay, we have a meeting, we have to have an agenda, we have to do something like that. Creating alternative communication channels where you can just pop in, ask a question to a group and get someone answering it, or get help with something, or provide help for someone else in an unofficial kind of ad hoc kind of way. That also fosters the kind of communication and collaboration that you want, even if people are remote. Make it as easy to ask someone a question as it is popping your head over your out the door and into the office or the cubicle next to you and ask something. Make sure you have those things in place so you can actually have that kind of communication without feeling like this should have been an email with a signature and everything. It feels different.
Yeah, make it so that people don't feel stupid for asking the question. I mean, that's the key thing, isn't it? Because certainly when you're new to a business, actually, the temptation, you think like, oh, I'm being thick. I'm not thinking about this properly. But you don't know. But then you don't ask because there's no one to ask. The only people you can talk to are your superiors, who you don't want to feel thick to. So it's difficult.
The other side of that coin is actually, if you have that kind of communication, even if it's especially kind of if it's written, if it's kind of a Slack channel or whatever, it helps you as a manager to figure out what are the actual things people are wondering about. So these are things we might have to document better in our processes because people don't understand how this works.
Yeah.
Only the people who's been here for 5 years knows how this works. Okay, so perhaps we should provide a guideline for how to do this.
Yeah, we should have written that down.
You don't pick that up if you don't have that kind of communication. If everything is one-to-one in the hallway, you don't pick that up unless someone reports it. So there are two sides to that coin as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And what I also have a feeling is really, really important to really celebrate successes. I think that's more important in a hybrid scenario than if you're in an office environment all the time, because people are so distributed. Oftentimes the small successes are not really recognized as much as they should be. So really do work for celebrating those, be it in send out remote food or whatever, and then have half an hour after a project is closed to really say salute and have a good time.
I'm going to say you didn't mean food, did you? You did mean alcohol, right? Then come on,
I meant food.
You meant alcohol. Let's be honest.
I don't drink alcohol.
Send out tequila. That's what you were thinking, really?
I'm not drinking alcohol, so.
Okay, fair enough.
Or at lot, not lot.
Not tequila. Wow. Okay, we've nailed it today. So let's sum this up. So, if a survey suggests that 68% of full-time employees prefer hybrid working, and yet 90% of businesses plan to implement a more solid return to work. So, from my perspective, I think that shows a big disparity between the way that businesses are thinking and the way that employees are thinking. But I think it's going to hit somewhere between 50-50 on that one. It's got to, because there are so many arguments for and against that we've been through today. So I think personally that hybrid is here to stay, simply because of the fact that the employee is going to be king in this situation. What do you think, Christian Mohn?
Yeah, I completely agree. We can't go back to everyone in the office all the time. There's no way that's going to happen. Employees won't go for it, and they'll change jobs. I mean, it's as simple as that. As long as there is availability of jobs, that's not going to happen, right? So everyone, there has to be some kind of middle ground that people work out, and it's going to be different for each company and each department and each individual, how that should work and what works best for them.
Yeah.
No, totally see it the same way. It's here to stay, but every company has to find a good middle ground between force and completely letting everything loose. Think about your culture and how you want to be attractive, both internally and externally as a company.
Yes, I always want to be attractive. Let's all be attractive together.